Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's the J Gemini. Tonight I wanted to go ahead and bring you a video of a super cool product that I'm very excited to go ahead and share with you. Now, I have to be honest, I'm not the most of an expert when it comes to this type of part of EDC or type hobby within example, but I think with sort of my hobbies as being into high-end nicer style knives, right, and nicer style watches. Alpinist is what we're wearing today. It's the SARB 017, not the Prospect version but the original, and all sorts of other things in between, flashlights and other different gear. I think using that I can actually end up confidently somewhat telling you about this great product. So today we're actually going to be talking about the Tactile Turn bolt action mini. So ended up going ahead and looking for a good pin, I guess. I ended up being in a Discord of a couple different things, and kind of seeing people carry titanium, and then getting my favorite knife back, which can't wait to go ahead and produce a review for this. But getting this, just the raw titanium, really kind of put me into a spiral of wanting more and more titanium gear. And I ended up doing some research on a lot of great companies and ended up coming to this. And I'm really glad that I did. So today I'm going to tell you some of the pros that I've experienced with this particular pin and some of the cons. What I like, what I dislike, as the format always goes. And rubbish as well. So there's a lot to like with this pin. Again, I'm no expert in calligraphy or writing or penmanship or the history or any of that, right? I just know a quality product when I put it in my hands. So the first thing is just when you put this in your hands, you can really tell that there has been a lot of hours placed into this Tactile Turn. Now this is the bolt action mini, not the slim. I actually picked this version, and I'll talk to you about that in a second in particular. But back to the fit and finish, there's just a lot of things right here. When you show people this pin from afar, it looks like it's one solid piece of titanium, and that's what this material is. But it actually has a threaded top and an O-ring seal that stops it from backing off. So you don't have to crank on it. It doesn't come loose at all, just under its own, writing and things like that. If you also look at the top here, it's a little bit more easy to see this, but there's basically this really tightened on cap that screws down into the body of this machine pin, and then it has this folded over clip. In the body, you see that there is this sort of J-shaped cut in it, which actually enables you to quite easily, once you get the hang of it, flick down and even fidget this bolt. Now the way that this works is there's a spring in here like a regular pin that tensions a refill, which we'll get to that later, and it ends up having this that you push down, and then it slots into place, kind of like a bolt action rifle, hence the name. Then when you push it, after a certain point, the spring shoots back up and ends up going ahead and putting it back to its closed position. So really fun to play with, really simple to operate. As you can see on this one, I actually have one that comes with the Timascus bolt head. Now, Timascus, if you're not aware, if you're someone who's not into the knife community, you just clicked on this video because you want a nice pen, you're like, hey, what's this about? Timascus is basically multiple different, I guess, grades or types of titanium that are compressed over and over and over again, kind of like a Damascus steel is. Then when they anodize it, it comes out with a lot of pretty I can't get it. I just had it. There we go. A lot of pretty colors. So with this one, you get some purples. You get sort of some reddish pinks and like some bronzy browns. And the cool thing is once you have your oil on your fingers, sometimes it'll make it more dull, but sometimes it'll really make those colors pop even more. So it's really cool and just adds that extra touch of specialness. Each and every Timascus bolt will be different, like a fingerprint, because when it's compressed over and over again, it's done in different directions and everything. So yours will be unique to you. Speaking of kind of the uniqueness of this pen, one thing, if you can maybe see it, is this excellent traction. This is actually turned. Maybe that's why it's called the tactile turn, like Nick Shabazz said, but it has this milling that is up the whole entire body of the pen, from tip to butt. And what that does is it gives a really nice feel, but it also gives some resistance for traction on this pen itself when you're going ahead and using it to write, and it just makes it feel really good in the hand. All these different little things really aid to just a feeling of luxury. Like, this is really special and really nice, and I am lucky to own this. That's what I think every time. And sometimes, just like a knife, I'll take this out and just look at it. I'll just click it once or twice and go, wow. And that's the first thing that's really awesome about this pen. Second thing about this pen, the Bolt Action Mini, is really went back and forth and was kind of frightened, I guess it would be the right word, but just a little aware of the exact size of this. This particular pen is roughly about 4.3 inches, I believe, is what the size is. So this is a 3-inch Microtech from blade sharpened to point. So if I put this right next to, get that in frame a little better, if I put that right next to the sharpening portion here, at the blade up, this is perfectly 3 inches. So having another 1.5 inches, like I said, it's about 4.31, inches or so on this particular pen. And why that's important is because I wanted, the way I carry my EDC is nothing to touch. Like, I carry this is a representative of a phone, this is representative of a wallet, and what else do I have here? Oh, and a full-size knife, and then this pen as well. And with all that stuff, nothing rubs. So it's important that the only pocket that I have left over is a 5th pocket on my jeans. So it was important that I could put this somewhere where it wouldn't rub against anything else, where I didn't have to get some fancy leather slip that I'm really not going to use, right? And actually, this would promote me to carry this every single day. So this, in my jeans, because that's all I wear, in the 5th pocket, this actually sits right about here, or in other ones, right down to the tip. And it's never slipped out, it's never even gotten close, which I'm really, really happy about, because this really strikes a balance of usability in size, but also that carryability. Now, that kind of does end up going ahead and taking me into my first negative, and I might come a little back and forth about good and bad, but the first thing that is just something to observe. It's not even a negative, because this is a positive in the term that it does write good, but this replaceable cartridge only takes a G2 Pilot Mini insert. Now this is a gel insert, and it's a good one. It writes smooth, and they're reliable, and they're cheap too. But for someone, again, who is an enthusiast into pens and has tried 50 different ballpoint and gel, inserts, and has their perfect one that they like. This gives you little to no options to be able to customize. So that's something to be aware of. Although it is a good refill, it's cheap. Some of the negatives are it's one refill, and it's also kind of environmentally not too friendly, just because of the simple fact that Pilot doesn't sell that insert by themselves, although they do sell it in different colors, which is great. You have to buy the entire plastic mini G2, take it apart, throw that away. Who knows if that's recyclable or not? I mean, I'm all for trying to reduce waste if you can, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. One thing that is option though, if you get this pen and you do want to have maybe some more options other than just the Pilot, you can end up going to Shapeways, which if I find the link, I'll actually put it down in the description. This is a 3D printing company where you can submit through a design, and if you don't have a 3D printer, you can go on and get a part printed. So they actually have a conversion that takes a mini G2 and takes this really thin steel insert for very small pens, and they maybe have 7 or 8 different options from that particular size. So when you look at it, it'll tell you more about it, and then you can do the insert research. Or if you're a pen enthusiast, you might already know the insert that I'm talking about. I'm sorry for my ignorance. Like I said, I know just enough to get me in trouble when it comes to this, and not really any to get me out. Moving on to the next thing, like I said, the deep carry of this was kind of something that is important. If you look at the Slim, although it is slimmer in profile, it actually has this big milled pocket clip. What that means is it's actually milled out of a solid piece of titanium like this is, instead of like a piece of wire flat piece of titanium that's been folded. And what that does is it makes it this much of the pen right out of your pocket instead of this. To me, this looks nicer, and it rides deeper, which I like. Also like that even though it rides deep, because it has these knurl links, as soon as your fingers grip, it is easy to pull out of the pocket. Now, on to more so of the negatives. Like I said, has a great feeling in hand, has a nice weight that makes it feel like a luxury item. It's really, really high quality made. It's made in the United States in Texas by Tactile company, or Tactile Turn. Now they're starting to make knives, and I definitely want to get in one of those. So that's another positive. Clearly my favorite knife is made out of China. So it's not a situation that it has to be American made, but it is a benefit if it is. I, try to root for someone who, lives in States, right? That I do see as a positive, although I don't have a problem if it's made somewhere else. Now, on to some of the things that is a little bit more of a negative about this is, the first one is this bolt action. When I got this, I had some issues with the pen. Nothing major, but the thing that was actually rubbish is, in a way, is that the bolt here was very easy to take out with your fingers, which is great if you're someone like me who originally thought, man, it would be so cool if I got this. I don't know if I'm gonna like that whole shiny machined look. I want something that is more like a stone washed, acid washed, bead blasted look. I'm gonna take this apart and take it down to a local guy I know that does customization, have him bead blasted, or I want to, so on and so forth. Once I got it, I realized how pretty this pen is, and I kind of just want to keep it as it is. But that is a benefit if you're someone like that, because you can easily take that off, pull that out. You could bead blast the whole entire pen. You could try to take the pocket clip off, go a little deeper if you wanted to, and then it would be easy to put it back in. The issue about this is that I tried to use Loctite and trying to tighten down as hard as I could with my fingers, and after fidgeting it for a little bit, which the action's another positive while I'm thinking about it, but after fidgeting it for a while, it would start to rotate and come loose, which is not a great thing. You don't want to have to be constantly tightening that. It doesn't make it fun when that part isn't reliable. I ended up using Vibratite, which is a faster drying, different brand than regular Loctite, and ended up taking my Leatherman and through a microfiber, I ended up really tripling it over to grab onto it, and I sort of torqued on it a little bit, and then it sort of slipped off, didn't scratch anything. I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna leave it alone. And that seemed to do the trick, just that micro, little tiny bit of torque from the Leatherman or any pliers and the microfiber to protect this beautiful Timascus from getting damaged, or the pin did the trick, and it seems to be solved. So that's kind of a pain in the neck, and something that I was even like, hey, do I have to send this back to you guys to, fix? Now, more on that. Another thing that did though is putting the Loctite in here and then wiping it out, the inside out, to make sure, because the action would get sticky after that, and I had to kind of break it free, is the action would actually start to stick. Like when I pushed down on it, it wouldn't release, almost like lock stick on a knife, if you know what that is, where you have to kind of push hard, or you push in on the bolt and then pull down, and then it sort of snaps and it'll sort of start to go. And the action also would get very gritty. So yeah, I kind of had to, for the first week or so, clean in there, get everything out, get also the sort of lubricant that they use. And also, if you're in Florida like I am, and when you sweat, that can actually get up inside of the pin, and it was almost creating like a hydro lock, where it felt like it was kind of like squish, and then it would snap and then squish, and it created sort of a negative experience with this pin. Luckily, I got some rubbing alcohol, isopropyl. I got a paper towel, took the spring out so there was no slack. I just dropped it down where it was here. I really got in there. I worked it. I did it again. I worked it, and now just sort of running it dry with nothing in there really seems to be happy. And maybe once a week or every 2 weeks, I might get up in there, and I haven't even yet, honestly. So, it seems to have fixed the issue, and now I'm just loving this thing. So just kind of be forewarned about that. Something I was surprised about that is rubbish, though, is the fact that I did originally contact Tactile Turn. I did only send, one email, and it was from their website. Instead of directly emailing them, I used the contact us submit queue thing, right? But I never got a message back. Again, that could be a one-off thing. They make a great product, and most people, what I've seen from Taylor Martin, who definitely check him out if you haven't. Part of his Discord, and he makes a great channel as it is. But he actually had the opposite problem, where he had to take a blowtorch to get the Loctite out, and maybe after seeing that, because another kind of cool thing, if you can, come here, D4. Another thing, that is not what I wanted to do. I just wanted that. Okay, another thing that you can actually see is it says Tactile Turn 2001. So if you have like an older model, like 2018, you'll be able to see that, so on and so forth. So anyways, this one's definitely a new one, and maybe they've went the opposite direction and they haven't put any Loctite. With his, he had to use a flame torch, and he had to get, special clamps to finally get that out and anodize the whole pin, because he had flame titanium, like a, HKS racing exhaust on a, Japanese tuner car or something like that. So opposite issue. Very specific reference, I know, by the way. But that's basically it. I mean, like I said, a pen's kind of a simple thing as it is. It rates good. It's limited in its options, but that's okay by me. Someone who is a little bit more of a simpleton when it comes to the pen hobby. Just wanted one nice pen that I can kind of rely on, and this definitely meets that. It also meets my need to go out and be small. And even though it is small, now that I'm thinking about it, it does write just fine. It does kind of limit you in your ability to write, though. You kind of have to hold it like this, or you can hold it on the knuckle if you write like that. Technically, it's not a big pain if you hold it like this or hold it like this, but it could be something that, if you're like me, you kind of want the smooth body. And if that's a big thing for you, then you might just want to get the bigger the small short size or the full size. For me, it really doesn't matter. I don't write all that often, and even if I did have to write in a 30-minute meeting or something, this is plenty of length. So that's the only and last thing I really wanted to kind of touch on, is the fact that you're probably hitting into this, and even if you're left-handed, you kind of have a similar issue where you have to hold it just like that. That's fine by me. Again, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but I did want to mention it if, again, you're a pen enthusiast or you're looking at this pen and you're like, wait, yeah, that would annoy me to just hold it very specifically. Like I said, overall, I think this is an amazing product. It did have a little bit of teething, but I would still recommend it 100%. And like their slogan says on their website, yeah, it's a $100 pen and it's worth every penny. And as silly as that sounds, it's bang on 100%. You could have this with, like I said, a simple Swiss Army knife. You could have this with a $20,000 AP Royal Oak. It would fit in and meet everything. It is, to me, one of the pinnacles and top-end pens, unless you're wanting to get something more traditional like a Mont Blanc or something like that. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this review. Pretty excited to go ahead and make it, and I hope you guys, if you have any sort of questions whatsoever, please leave them down. I love going ahead and talking to you guys, fellowshipping with you guys, learning your opinions and everything like that. Of course, if you like content like this, I know that sounds, but I appreciate you subscribing as we're trying to aggressively grow, and we're halfway to 1,000, which I can't even believe. Most importantly, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch this video, as honestly, there are so many great creators like Taylor Martin or Shabazz that I talked about, or Metal Complex. Also give that guy a check out, as he actually helped me kind of grow the channel here and get to that 500 mark. So I hope everybody has a great rest of your night, great rest of your week and weekend coming up. Everybody stay safe and take care. Peace.